I just Googled chicken soup and this is what I got. You can see Google is showing me recipes and their information such as time and ingredients. But does Google do this for every web page and every content? Not really. They have added something known as structured data to their web pages. Now Google knows that they contain a recipe and can easily get the information it needs. You can also easily display the content of your site in Google like this. Today, in this tutorial, I'm gonna help you make your website look much more professional than competitors. In this video, I will show you WordPress plugins and practical tips, so keep watching to the end. My name is Andrew from WordConvert. In this channel, I teach you how to develop your online businesses and get a great result with the help of a strong SEO. So if you want to learn the structured data or schema.org, I'll explain it to you in this video with an example, step by step. So we talked about something known as structured data, and we said that these websites are adding structured data so that search engines can get the information they want. But what are structured data exactly? So if I just bring the Google article about the subject, you can see that it just defines the structured data like this. Structured data is a standardized format for providing information about the page and classifying the page content. For example, on a recipe page, what are the ingredients, the cooking time and temperature, the calories, and so on. So basically, structured data are a way of explicitly telling search engines about the data. So we have the content, we always have the content, but search engines want a way to programmatically and without actually thinking and without any artificial intelligence know what we are talking about. So if we have a book, search engines should know that this is actually a book. We are talking about a book. We have an author, we have a publisher, and so on and so forth. And such a thing needs a standard so that people can use the very same standard for talking about the product. So for example, they say that we're gonna format a book like this and we're gonna use these words. So we have author name, for example, not just author, or maybe we have just only name, and search engines can easily understand what we're talking about. And the standard is schema.org. So schema.org is a project funded by Google, Microsoft, and many other search engines. And basically it's just standardizing the way that we add the structured data. And if I just bring the schemas part and the full list of types, you can see here we have different types, and there are a lot of types. So we have a thing, so everything is a thing, of course, except the data types, which are just for programmers. And then a thing can be a place or person or product or action. And if I just select, for example, product, we have individual products or vehicles or product models. And for example, vehicles, we have cars. And if I just select a car, now we are in a type. So car is a type, and car can have lots of properties. So for example, it can have total weight or brand or award or depth or anything related to a car, logo. And you can see there are lots of things. So they have just thought about everything we need for a car, and we can just use this information. Of course, we have to use the appropriate format, so we have to just follow whatever that is written on schema.org. Basically, we have three different ways for adding structured data. The first one is microdata, the second one is RDFA, and the third, but the most important and the recommended type, is JSON-LD. And JSON-LD stands for JavaScript Object Notation for Linked Data. And this is a really good format, but we're gonna talk how we can generate, because of course you don't understand how this works, how all of these informations are just gathered together and formatted. But don't worry, I'm gonna show you how we can exactly do this. Basically, there are three ways for adding schemas to our web pages, and by schema I just mean structured data, which is using schema.org. And the first method is that we just use the website and we use sample codes and change the code and just embed it in our web pages. And it's basically much easier than you think, because you don't need to have any programming experience or any prior experience using structured data. So for example, let's say I just have a book. So I'm just going to search book here. And the first result here is what I want, book and type. So basically just showing me the book type, and this is what I want. We have, of course, book format or download action, which is again a type, but some of them are just properties. So for example, book editation is just a property, and I'm just gonna select the first one, the book type. And you can see a book has lots of properties here, but we need to use a sample code because we don't know how to use these properties in the proper format. And we have some examples here which are really useful, and basically we're just going to use these examples and change some of the data here. And as I told you, we have 3 ways for adding structured data to a web page, and the first one is microdata, and we have then RDFA and JSON-LD, but the recommended method is JSON-LD. And one very good thing about JSON-LD is that it's separated from our content. So here we just only have to add a script tag and add the data, add the structure to our web page. But using RDFA or microdata, you can see that the structured data and the rules are just linked to our HTML. So we have the HTML tags, and we have, for example, item property set to publisher, and basically it's just in the HTML tag. And it's much harder to use the first two formats because most of the times a plugin is just creating the HTML for you and you don't have access to the HTML. So for example, you are just using WooCommerce and just creating products for you, or maybe you are using Elementor and you don't have access to the HTML. But using JSON-LD, which is indeed the recommended method by Google, we can just add the structure and add the schema to our web page, and it doesn't matter where the HTML is coming from. So any plugin you have, you can just add the script tag for your content. And in this case, we have this script tag in the first example, and you can just copy the script tag, but you just have to change the data. So for example, you can just set the name of your book here in the name section, and set the genre and description and copyright year and ISBN, and all of them are just straightforward. So we have name, number of pages, publisher, name of publisher, and is it family friendly, description, copyright, and you can just add all of the things. And if you don't know about an option, you can just leave it empty, and that's really cool. And what we have to do is that we have to add this script tag in the head of our page, in the page that we have the book. So we don't have to just add this in all of our pages, because that would cause problems, because Google then checks and sees that we don't have the HTML, but we have the structured data, and it can be bad for your website. So we only have to embed this script tag in the pages that we have the product, we have the HTML, and we have the content. And it's super easy to do this. For example, one way is that we use a plugin called Code Snippets, and I'm just going to quickly show you how we can use this plugin. So I have my website here, like a test, and I have a few pages here, and let's say we just want to add the script tag to this page, my PDF. So I have a PDF here, and let's say I just want to add the structured data here and not in any other pages. So I'm just gonna install a plugin here called Code Snippets, and it's here. And there are lots of other plugins that can help you. Here I'm just gonna quickly show you how we can use Code Snippets. I'm just gonna activate it, and here we have snippets, and by default we have a JavaScript snippet, so example JavaScript snippet, and here basically just printing this script in all of our pages, so all of our pages in the front end. But we don't have to just add this in all of our pages, because that would cause problems, as I said. So we just have to, and we must only use the script tag in the proper page, and we have to add an if statement here. So I'm just gonna add an if statement here above the script tag. So here, before just the printing section starts. If you don't understand this, it's totally fine. You just have to do what I'm doing here. So basically, I'm just gonna add an if statement, and every page and every post has an ID. So I'm just gonna add if get the ID. So we have get underline the underline ID, and this is a WordPress function which gonna just get the ID of the current page, and we just gonna say if the get the ID, or if the ID is just equal to a number, and we can just use the number here. So then do this and then print the script. So I'm just gonna place a colon here and end if here, and I just have to use this end if after the PHP tag, because this area is just the printing area. So I'm just gonna put it here. And let's say you just say, for example, 5. And this is the script that you have to use. You don't need to understand this. Basically, all this is doing is that it's just printing the script in the page with this ID. And I can just duplicate this and create many IDs. For example, here, let's just print my pages. And my PDF page has the ID of 2036. So I'm just gonna put the ID here. And now I can just put a sample code here. So for example, I'm just gonna alert hi. So basically, if this snippet is just working correctly, I should get the hi message only in the PDF page. So I'm just gonna save this change. And now if I just bring my website, and I have no alert in the front page, but in my PDF page, I have the alert, but only in this page and not, for example, in the front page or in the blog page. And that's working correctly. So you can just only use this code here and only change the ID. So you can just create mini codes here and change the ID, and then you can just add this script tag in the correct ID, and that just works fine for any post or any pages and even in custom post types. But the second method is that we use the very same process for adding the code. So we use this plugin or any other plugin that just lets us add JavaScript or add PHP to specific pages, but then we don't use the examples here, and rather we just use websites that generate schemas for us. And there are many websites that can ask some questions and then generate the schema in the JSON-LD format. And for example, I can just search JSON-LD schema generator, and there are a lot of websites that just generate JSON-LD, and some of them are just very good for some entities and some products, but not very good for others. So maybe one website is really good for generating structured data for books, but not very good for cars or persons, and you just have to check and find the right website for your need. For example, in this website, I can just select person, and I can just set the name and the job title and URL. So I'm just gonna set Andrew and programmer, and I don't need the URL, and let's just add city and country here. That's okay. And now you can see just generating the JSON-LD for me. Very cool, very easy. I can easily use this JSON-LD, and that's it. No programming, no searching, just generates the JSON-LD for me. Very nice. And the third method is just we use plugins, and plugins don't need us to just add the code here. And you can see that although this method works well and easily, there are problems. And the basic problem that you can see is that for every page we have to use a code and we have to use a snippet, and that can become hard because if you have lots of pages, lots of products, and just adding snippets for every page ID is a hard thing. And plugins are really good for this purpose. So you have a big website and you have lots of products and lots of books, and adding the code here is not an effective way. So if you have a small website and if you have just limited products and maybe you're just introducing the product, then this method just works fine. It's very easy and you actually have access to all of the things that you just want to put, and you can just add anything that you like. But for larger websites, we have to just use plugins, and the most advanced plugin here is WP Schema Pro, and it's a premium plugin. And if you are serious in this subject and you want to seriously use schemas in your website, and you have a large website, maybe a WooCommerce website with lots of products or lots of reviews or lots of recipes, and then this plugin is really good for you. And I think it's $80, and yes, it's $63. If you're serious, this is a good plugin for this purpose, and it has lots of options, and it just takes some time to just master this plugin, but when you do, then it's a piece of cake, and it's really easy to just add schemas to your products. And there are easier options as well. So for example, if you have used SEO plugin, then it has schemas by default and just adding schemas. So most of SEO plugins just have this feature, and they can just add schemas for your website very easily. Finally, whatever way you are using for adding structured data to your website, whether you're using plugins or you're just writing the code yourself or copying it from somewhere, it's really good idea that you check the correctness of your structured data and check that it's really correct and it's working. And Google has a really good tool for this purpose. So you can just use Google, and it just shows how it's crawled and the search engine is seeing your website. So if I just search Google structured data, and here is the service structured data testing tool. If I just open this page, you can see we can just give the link or the code snippet to Google, and Google will just show the result for us. And it's better that we use the link so Google can scan all the page and show all the structured data. And let's just test one of the recipe pages. So if I just search for chicken soup, and let's just bring this page, and if I just give the URL to Google, so you should just do this for all of your pages. And unless you're just automating the process and you know the plugin is really doing the job. And if I just run test, you can see we have a recipe here, a video object, and this card. And for the recipe, we have 2 warnings here, but no error, of course. And you can see that all of the data are here, for example, the images and the preparation time and the ingredients, and you should just check that your website is looking okay. And here, of course, is the source of this page. And the warnings here, if I just bring the warnings, is that the main entity of page field is recommended and the video field is recommended. So basically just saying 2 fields are recommended and this page is not using these fields, and it's okay. So warnings are not serious, so it's better. You can just check for warnings and improve your schemas, but of course you shouldn't have any errors. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Like always, if you have any problem, you can just reach our team from the link in the caption.